oh my God, Trump cannot be president again. We cannot have a deeply unstable guy as president. And part of the reason was the scene with Truman. And so I don't want to give too much of the movie away, but Truman is kind of flippant, in the movie at least, about using the bomb. And I thought, man, if you have a guy who's not a serious person in that office and is kind of flippant about using the bomb, and next thing you know, the other side launches, and then we're in a world of trouble.
There it is, the classic Democrat panic button. Movie credits still rolling, and Cenk is already screaming that Trump is one bad day away from ending the world. Meanwhile, the man currently sitting in the Oval Office is pouring billions into a proxy war with a nuclear power, and the same people who spent 4 years calling Trump a warmonger are suddenly quiet. Stick around. The record is about to destroy the fearmongering.
Trouble we cannot recover from. Now, in terms of the Ukraine war, I have a nuanced opinion on it, and we have had that opinion for a long time on Young Turks. And it's, number one, we pushed too much in the beginning. Like, we pushed NATO too close to Russia, and we don't need it. If they had pushed their alliances next to us, we would have flipped out. And we know that for a fact because when the Soviets moved anything into Cuba, we nearly went to World War III over it, right? So forget Mexico. They were in Cuba and we almost launched, right? So we should not have been pushing that close into Russia. That is a legitimate Russian interest outside of Vladimir Putin. Okay, now having said that, we backed away at the end and said Ukraine's not going to be part of NATO. And I thought that was going to do it, but it turns out, no, Putin was always going to invade. And so like Dick Cheney and George Bush were always going to invade Iraq, Putin was always going to invade Ukraine. And since he was going to, it looks like he proved definitively that he was always going to do that. That to me says the real danger is Putin. And so I'm really worried about putting him in a corner where he thinks I got no way out but to use some weapons that I shouldn't use. And so now, having said that, in my opinion, you can't just leave the Ukrainians to die because this madman invaded them and took over some portion of their territory, etc. So I believe in helping the Ukrainians, but I don't believe in pushing NATO into Ukraine. Now, post-war, of course, it's a tougher ask when the Ukrainians say, well, I mean, these guys invaded us, right? So we got as good a reason to be in NATO as anyone. But that's also a pretty good reason not to have them in NATO, to be honest. And it's that, so that puts it as a very difficult question, not an easy one.
I got to follow up for you on that. So you know how I'll tell you my concern, like conservatives were like capitalists. I'm a capitalist all day long. I'm very comfortable saying it. You're a socialist. We'll have the conversation. What democratic socialist you'll call yourself or?
No, as I explained in my book, Justice Coming, I call myself a democratic capitalist.
Yeah, I remember
as
last
a democratic capitalist.
Yeah, last time he did say that.
So for me, I'm a pure capitalist is what I am, right? I'm a capitalist, more conservative leanings, how I want to raise my kids, family, certain things I'm not for, totally fine. I love discourse. I love conversation. These are my favorite conversations, by the way, with guys that I can sit there and talk to, because you can point out my leaks and my argument. I'll kind of point out my leaks and yours, and then you can defend yours. I can defend mine.
Yep.
But when Biden was getting elected, what were conservatives so worried about? Oh, my God, he's going to raise taxes. Capital gains is going to go to this, and he's going to do this, and he's going to do it. It's end of the world if this guy gets elected. Nothing happened with taxes. Just to be fair, I just want to say that.
100%.
100%. So meaning that fear Republicans had that it was going to happen quickly within 2020, 2021, 2022 hasn't happened yet. Now, one could say, well, Biden didn't deliver on his promises. Fine. But all I'm saying is the boogeyman didn't happen to those who voted against him. Perfect. Now, let's flip it on the other side. The fear a lot of times Democrats will say is, oh, there's no way after watching Oppenheimer, after seeing what happened with Truman, after seeing this, and you're not the only person that's saying this. A lot of people feel the same way because the movie, people were split. This is why Trump can't be. This is why I can't believe Biden. It's great. That's what you want to hear. You may say Trump was going to start a war. He's the guy that actually didn't. He's the guy that calmed a lot of things down. ISIS,
North Korea,
meeting with these guys. I don't like it. I don't like this. I don't like that. Nothing happened with Russia and Ukraine. And now he's going out there saying, if I get elected within 24 hours, he's famous for saying lines like that. Within 24 hours, I would end this. And here's how I would do it. So the proof is in the pudding to say those who thought this guy's going to be a button away from nuclear war, they were wrong. It didn't happen. And those who said Biden's going to increase taxes to socialist levels, they were also wrong. So do you feel now, even though you're seeing this with, Ukraine, Russia, there is little less credibility in the fear of Trump starting a war since he did in the first 4 years he was in?
Did you hear that? Cenk just admitted the fear of Trump starting World War III never happened. 4 years, 0 new wars, ISIS crushed, North Korea talking instead of testing. No new Middle East quagmire, and still the man cannot bring himself to give credit without immediately calling Trump full-blown nuts. This is the Democrat playbook in high definition. Invent a cartoon villain, scare the country half to death, then refuse to update the story when reality refuses to cooperate. Biden raises taxes to socialist levels? Never happened. Trump starts nuclear war? Never happened. Yet the same voices keep recycling the same script because fear is the product and ratings are the profit. PBD and Vincent just sat there and forced Cenk to confront the actual history. Trump left office with no new wars on his resume. Biden walked into one and the military-industrial complex started cashing checks again. And suddenly, the party that used to pretend it hated endless war is the one feeding the machine. That is not nuance. That is hypocrisy with a press pass.
Saying like, so you more fearful if Trump comes in about nuclear war and stuff. Obviously, I think we're closer to it now with what's happening in Russia and Ukraine. I worked at a nuclear missile base in Montana. When people are like, I don't trust this guy because he has his finger on the button, it's a complete fallacy. To launch a nuke, the process of what it takes to actually launch something is absurd. Like, it's insane. People think that somebody's sitting there like this. That's all BS. Do you think we would be where we are with Ukraine and Russia and the whole situation right now if Trump was still in? Or do you think regardless it was going to happen no matter what?
I think that Trump would have let Putin take as much of Ukraine as he wanted, to be honest. And so you can make two arguments about that. You can say, hey, you know what? If you just let Russia take Ukraine, there's less war. Boom, they took it, it's over, right?
Yeah.
And what do we care if they take Ukraine?
Yeah.
So I think that's a callous argument, but that's an argument you could make. That's not an argument I agree with. But in terms of the whole idea that I'm going to settle Russia and Ukraine in a day, come on, stop being a jackass. And even MAGA doesn't believe that. I mean, it's absurd, right?
Did you see what Zelensky had to say about that?
Yeah,
What-
and so,
Did you
but
see
I
his
want to say
response?
one more thing about your question.
Yeah.
Look, North Korea developed 8 nukes while Trump was president.
Yep.
He's all bluster. He's all talk. He has no action. All Kim Jong-un had to do was send him one letter saying that, hey, man, hey, bro, I really like you, right?
And he crossed the DMZ and he actually stepped into North Korea.
And then he came out and said that they're sending love letters to one another and that they're in love. What kind of loser says that about, by the way, a communist dictator? If Obama or Biden had said he was in love with a communist dictator, MAGA would have ripped their heads off. Trump says that they excuse everything he does. So I don't think he's tough. And I'm not sure that he's going to avoid war. I mean, did the 8 nukes North Korea develop make us closer or further away from war? I don't know. If you had attacked them earlier, they would have obliterated Seoul, South Korea, let alone Japan. So these are difficult questions, and people keep saying they're easy when they're not easy.
Let's stay there. This is good. So let's stay on this topic. In regards to Trump love, sometimes, I've been in sales for a long time, and I see how some people sell. Some people sell through flattery. Some people get their ways through making you, there's different ways of selling. Some people sell through consultative closing. If I were you, I would do this. Some sell through, hey, you're so beautiful. You're so this. You're so you're so smart. Like
that instantly worked.
But yeah, well, yeah.
Thank you, buddy. Thank you, buddy.
What do you need?
$100 billion, Cenk. We got to get to war.
So, but the point is, like, I watch how different presidents said, like, when Obama went to Cuba at the baseball game and they're sitting there like, oh my God, I can't believe something. All right, so Obama also has his stuff with who he sat down, but we can go with everybody that's done this, okay? Trump has his own way of selling that he's been selling in New York. Whether it sells or not, we were at peace for 4 years. We haven't talked ISIS since 2014, 2015. So that is the part with him. How he's going to fix Ukraine, Russia in 24 hours, everybody wants to know how he's going to do it. He's presented it, whether it's going to work out or not. Most people don't believe it's going to take 24 hours. So I'm going to be there with you on that. But this the one part when you think about this whole situation with, what they're doing. Okay, so Putin says Russia put nuclear bombs in Belarus as warning to the West. This was a couple weeks ago. This was a month ago when he said that. Even recently, he's like, hey, you're playing with fire. Now, at this point, Putin's given a nuclear threat how many times? I don't know how many times. I'm going to say more than 5 times.
Probably.
So if you're going to do it, either do it or you don't do it, right? So it's either you're over bluffing your hand now and no one knows you got pocket aces, you're full of it, you don't have ace king, and you're just kind of like acting like you got a card, you got a 210. Or you have a decent hand, but you don't want to go all in because you want me to think you have aces, but you got pocket tens, let's just say, right? Okay, fair, cool. But should we sit there and not take the threat of the possibility that it could happen and us keep feeding Ukraine and giving them more and more and more ammunition, playing more and more and more proxy war? And, you know, if you brought up, I think you brought up Cuban Missile Crisis earlier. And by the way, there was a part of it that Turkey and Italy were involved.
Yeah, that's right.
Where
Turkey saved America.
Yeah, essentially where he said, hey, you guys got to, like, your missiles, you got to give them up or you guys can't use them. And then boom, it kind of came back around. What if JFK didn't do that? What if that wasn't the strategy? Came out years later. We didn't find out about it at the beginning because it was kind of low key. Yeah, can you pull that up? Turkey, Italy, is this the one? Yeah, this is the one. Sealing the deal with Italy and Turkey 60 years ago during April 1963, the U.S. Air Force took steps to implement the final stage of the secret U.S.-Soviet deal that helped resolve the Cuban Missile Crisis with the dismantling of the Jupiter missiles deployed in Italy and Turkey. So, that some people could say this can save the world, this can save the World War III. This was like a big deal that happened. Okay.
Yep.
So good for JFK for kind of taking that route. Flip that on Biden. I don't know, man. I mean, you know, you're feeding the machine nonstop to get Putin where you're cornering the guy. Either do something about it and get the guy to fall, or you're publicly saying, here's who we're going to keep empowering. And then the argument then comes back. Remember John Bolton? Is that his name, John Bolton? John Bolton, the war guy, right? That hates Trump. And, you know, he's like all about war. Yeah.
That's
okay. So what happened? What happened with Republicans being the party that was the party of military-industrial complex and, hey, you know, the movie Vice and look at the Rumsfeld and look at the chain, look at these guys, look how much money is being made behind clubs. All they want to do is war. Republicans want a war every day. Dude, it's like right now, the Democrats are the ones that want war, and Trump, the one that everybody hates from the left, that's the guy that didn't want war. He says, all I want is I want people to stop dying.
Yeah.
I want people to stop dying, right? So how did the Democrats all of a sudden become the military-industrial complex party?
Yeah, I can tell you exactly how. Follow the money. Everything is in the money.
And there it is. Cenk finally says the quiet part out loud. Democrats became the military-industrial complex party because the donor money moved. Defense contractors say jump, and the same people who spent years lecturing Republicans about forever wars now rubber stamp every supplemental like it's Christmas morning. Trump was the one saying, stop the dying. The left called him a danger to the planet. Now the same left is writing blank checks while Putin rattles nuclear sabers, and the only people allowed to notice are the ones the media already labeled deplorable. This is why the 4-0 to 6-0 crowd is done with the lecture. They lived through the predictions. They watched the predictions fail. And they are watching the same voices double down instead of admitting they were wrong. Cenk called Trump unstable all day long. The record still shows 0 new wars under Trump and an active proxy war under Biden. Facts do not care about the Oppenheimer after party.